The smell. That's the first thing I remember. The acrid, burnt smell of cheap coffee, the kind my parents always drank, filling the air. It mixed with the sharper scent of betrayal, a sensation I hadn't fully registered until the porcelain mug hit the wall, exploding into 1,000 tiny shards. Before that moment, life had been, well, mostly okay. Comfortable, maybe a little predictable. But okay. I was Claire, a graphic designer with a thriving freelance business, a cozy home, and a family that, despite its quirks, I loved. I was 42, married, and, if I were being brutally honest, a bit complacent. That morning, complacency ended. It ended with my sister, Megan, screaming about money and entitlement, with my parents' averted eyes, and with the chilling realization that the people I trusted most were actively working against me. It started small, a seemingly petty argument about transferring money. But it quickly spiraled into something far more sinister, exposing a web of secrets and lies that threatened to unravel everything I thought I knew about my family history. It forced me to ask the hardest questions, the ones that keep you up at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if you ever really knew the people closest to you. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about resilience, about rewriting your narrative when the script you've been given no longer serves you. It's about finding your voice when the world is telling you to be quiet. It's about claiming ownership of your story even when that story is messy, painful, and full of unanswered questions. This is my story. This is our story. And I hope in sharing it, we can all find a little more courage to face our own unraveling threads. The geography of betrayal is strange. It's not just about where it happens, but how. The physical space becomes imbued with the memory of pain, turning familiar landscapes into minefields. My house, my sanctuary, the place I'd painstakingly decorated with vintage finds and art I loved, became the epicenter of my personal earthquake. It was a charming 2-story craftsman bungalow in a quiet suburb of Chicago, a place I'd bought years ago, envisioning a life filled with laughter, family dinners, and maybe even a dog. It was mine. Or so I thought. The betrayal wasn't just that Megan wanted me out. It was the way she did it, the cold calculation, the entitlement. It was the fact that my parents, the people who were supposed to protect me, stood silently by, complicit in her scheme. My mother, bless her heart, was always a peacemaker, avoiding conflict at all costs. My father, a retired accountant, was a man of logic and order, but also easily swayed by those he perceived as stronger personalities, like Megan. Megan always envied me. She envied my independence, my creative career, my house. She saw my life as easy, as if I hadn't worked tirelessly to build it from the ground up. She saw me as soft, as if I couldn't handle the real world, a world she defined by corporate ladder climbing and designer handbags. She craved stability, the kind I seemed to possess, the kind that, ironically, she was about to shatter. She, on the other hand, worked as a business analyst at a large corporation. She felt that Claire's lifestyle did not contribute to society. The morning of the coffee incident, the tension in the house was palpable. It had been building for weeks, simmering beneath the surface like a pot about to boil over. My parents had moved in with me 5 years earlier, after losing their home to foreclosure. I hadn't hesitated to offer them a place to stay. They were my family, and family always came first. Or so I believed. But the dynamics shifted after their arrival. The house felt smaller, the air thicker. My parents, used to being in control, struggled to adapt to my independent lifestyle. Megan, fresh off a messy divorce and feeling lost and adrift, saw my home as a haven, a place where she could land softly. She never quite left. She was always there, offering unsolicited advice, rearranging my furniture, and subtly criticizing my choices. She had been taking over the house for so long. That morning, she demanded I transfer $8,000 to her for a business opportunity. I refused. That's when the coffee flew. The language of silence is deafening. It's the unspoken words, the averted gazes, the uncomfortable coughs that fill the spaces between the lines. It's the way my mother wrung her hands, a habit she always resorted to when she was lying or hiding something. It's the way my father's eyes glazed over, as if he were trying to disappear into the pattern of the Persian rug. The silence was there when Claire asked about the money, and they said that she was acting crazy. They'd always been masters of avoidance, skilled at sidestepping difficult conversations and burying uncomfortable truths. It was how they'd navigated their marriage, their finances, and their relationship with their daughters. Confrontation was to be avoided at all costs. My mother, Sarah, was the heart of our family, a kind and nurturing woman who always put others first. She was a homemaker, a volunteer, a devoted wife and mother. She believed in the power of positive thinking, even when faced with difficult realities. But her optimism often veered into denial, a refusal to acknowledge the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. My father, David, was the provider, the steady hand on the tiller. He was a hard-working, practical man who valued security and stability above all else. He was a loyal husband and a loving father, but also emotionally distant, struggling to express his feelings. He was the rational one, but he also deferred to my mother on matters of the heart. Megan, on the other hand, was the outspoken one, the one who always said what was on her mind regardless of the consequences. She was ambitious and driven but also insecure and deeply wounded. She hid her vulnerabilities behind a veneer of confidence and sarcasm. They said she was always jealous and hated everyone. I knew that something was wrong. I could feel it in the air, in the tension in their shoulders, in the way they avoided my gaze. But I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I wanted to believe that they were simply trying to protect me, to shield me from something painful. I was a fool. The silence became a wall, separating me from the people I loved. It was a betrayal in itself, a refusal to be honest, to be vulnerable, to be a family. It was a wound that cut deeper than any screaming match or thrown coffee mug. The fine print of family is often the most dangerous. It's the unspoken agreements, the hidden clauses, the conditional love that binds us together. It's the realization that family is not always unconditional, that there are strings attached, expectations to be met, and debts to be repaid. The bombshell about the lawyer was the moment I realized how deep the betrayal went. They had been planning this for weeks, maybe even months. They had sought legal counsel, strategized, and prepared to evict me from my own home. All while I was working tirelessly to support them. The lawyer's explanation was cold and clinical. Because my parents had resided in my home for over a year, they had established residency rights. I couldn't legally evict them without going through a lengthy and expensive court process. They knew this. They had been counting on it. She said that they had every right to live there since they had been there for so long. It was a strategic move, a calculated maneuver designed to leave me powerless. It was a betrayal of everything I thought we stood for as a family. He was always like that, even in her own family. I had always been the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who took care of everyone else. I had sacrificed my own dreams, my own desires, to support my family. I had put their needs above my own time and time again. Now they were repaying me with deceit and betrayal. It was a power play, a demonstration of their control. They wanted me to know that they were in charge, that I was no longer the master of my own destiny. They wanted to break me, to humble me, to remind me of my place in the family hierarchy. She said it was a move, Claire, and I don't regret nothing. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I had been so blind, so naive. I had allowed myself to be manipulated, to be taken advantage of. I had trusted the wrong people, and now I was paying the price. It was nothing. She always acts like the bad one when she wants to. The fine print of family is a dangerous thing. It can bind you tighter than any legal contract, but it can also break you into a million pieces. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I had been so blind, so naive. I had allowed myself to be manipulated, to be taken advantage of. I had trusted the wrong people, and now I was paying the price. It was nothing. She always acts like the bad one when she wants to. The fine print of family is a dangerous thing. It can bind you tighter than any legal contract, but it can also break you into a million pieces. In the darkest moments, friendship is a lifeline. It's the hand that reaches out when you're drowning, the voice that reminds you of your strength, the safe space where you can fall apart without judgment. Ethan was that lifeline for me. Ethan was my best friend, my confidant, my rock. We had been friends since college, sharing late-night study sessions, bad cafeteria food, and countless heart-to-heart conversations. He was the kind of friend who knew you better than you knew yourself, who saw your potential even when you couldn't see it yourself. He was a software engineer, a bit of a geek, but with a heart of gold. He was always there for me, offering a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on, or a much-needed dose of reality. He never judged me, never criticized me, never tried to fix me. He simply accepted me for who I was, flaws and all. He was the rock in my life. When I told him what had happened, he didn't hesitate to offer me a place to stay. His spare bedroom was small and sparsely furnished, but it was safe. It was a refuge from the storm, a place where I could lick my wounds and gather my strength. He was the one who listened to me when I needed to be heard. He listened patiently as I poured out my heart, sharing every detail of the betrayal, every fear, every doubt. He didn't offer easy answers or platitudes. He simply listened, offering words of encouragement and reminding me of my own strength. And always remembered that, even in the dark, I always had a light. He challenged me to see things differently, to question my assumptions, to rewrite my narrative. He helped me realize that I was not a victim but a survivor. It was something she would always admire in Ethan. He was a reminder that I was not alone, that there were people who cared about me, who believed in me. He was a gift, a blessing, a constant source of love and support. Friendship. They said that friendship can cure anything. The scent of money can be intoxicating, blinding, and ultimately destructive. It can corrupt even the most well-intentioned people, driving them to do things they never thought possible. It's where everything comes crashing down. Ethan noticed Megan had siphoned off nearly $50,000. He looked at the file. Her emails showed an attempt to steal and replace me. Ethan said he will have to help her deal with it. The money had always been a source of tension in my family. My parents had struggled financially for most of their lives, making ends meet but never quite getting ahead. Megan, driven by a relentless ambition, was determined to escape that cycle, to achieve financial success at any cost. She never was happy until she earned money. But her ambition often crossed the line into greed. She was always looking for shortcuts, for ways to get ahead without putting in the hard work. She saw money as a measure of worth, as a symbol of power and status. I never wanted to be that way. She had a history of shady dealings, of bending the rules to her advantage. She had a knack for manipulating people, for getting them to do what she wanted. And she had her eyes on my business, on my success. Always. The discovery of the stolen money confirmed my suspicions. Megan was not simply trying to take my house. She was trying to take my life. She wanted to erase me, to replace me, to steal everything I had worked so hard to achieve. She would never get close to her again, or so she thought. It was a betrayal of trust, a violation of everything I believed in. It was a stark reminder that money can corrupt even the closest of relationships, and a bad reminder of how bad the people can be. The inheritance of truth is the most valuable gift of all. It's the legacy of honesty, integrity, and authenticity that shapes our lives and guides our choices. It's the courage to face the past, to acknowledge the pain, and to rewrite the narrative for a better future. Uncle Greg was my mother's brother, a man of quiet strength and unwavering integrity. He was a successful architect, a philanthropist, and a mentor to many. He was also the black sheep of the family, estranged from my parents for reasons that were never fully explained. But it was too late because the letter and will said that to keep he would have to fight her. He knew about Megan that she didn't love anyone in the family. That's the story we told the police, he said so quietly. He slipped on the wet road. My childhood now filled with lies. But Megan did say. Megan gave him to do it. And that's when I had it. But now it's my time to act. They wanted it, but I would never give it. I'm better. I called the cops. It was over. I was safe. I had a new path now. A new house. I turned it into what made me happy. Now it's mine. The best is yet to come. The story of family is one with a million versions to it. Family can betray you and not. You do not need blood to create your own family. And just do good. Have you ever experienced a similar betrayal? Share your story in the comments below. What did you do? Let's support each other. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more stories of survival and resilience. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. You never know who might be struggling in silence.